carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Ephesians 5:15-17.
Hi, brethren. I hope you have been studying your lessons. We are at week number 9, and I want to encourage you during the course of this week to go through that lesson. It is entitled Living Wisely. Paul has some wonderful information and counsel for us. Brethren, go through your lesson this week. The memory text comes from Ephesians 5:15-17, and this is something that we ought to try to memorize. Paul says to us that we need to look carefully. So it means that we can't be flippant in our walk, because we open ourselves then to a fall, to encountering obstacles, to stumbling blocks. So we're to look carefully how we are going forward in our Christian walk, and we're to be wise. The lesson encourages us to walk as children of light, to mirror the sacrifice of Christ, and it gives us 4 reasons why we ought to emulate that love of Christ, upon which his sacrifice is based. It is because we love God the Father. We love Christ himself. That sacrifice based on love resembles or mirrors the Old Testament sacrifice, and it is a fragrant offering to God. And so part of living wisely, Paul encourages us, is to walk in love as Christ walked in love. And he contrasts that to the immoral sexual behavior. So we're not talking about the practices that the Greco-Romans had in Paul's day and that we are seeing proliferating in our day, but we are to walk circumspectly. We are to allow the Spirit to have control of us, so that is infused in our worship, especially in our music. Paul says Christ's sacrifice ought to be our example, and we ought to live as he did, avoiding sexual immorality, avoiding the excesses, and living as modestly as Christ himself did. So today, these things face the Christian. It doesn't mean that because we accept Christ that we are excused from the temptations to live in excess, to imbibe the alcoholic drinks, as Paul makes reference to engage in immoral sexual practices. These things still face the believer. But if we submit ourselves to Christ and allow him through his Spirit to have supreme residence in our life, we can live as overcomers. Paul, as the lesson says, encourages us to live wisely. So enjoy this week's lesson, lesson number 9. And I hope that on Sabbath we can have some wonderful conversation. Have a great week.
If you found this lesson preview helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.